senpai.
Hey everybody, it's Buzz. For the last 8 days, I've been binge reading Bleach, and I recently finished it, all 74 volumes of it, and I've been thinking about it a lot ever since then, and kind of wanted to share my thoughts on it a little bit. Bleach was always a series I was told by a lot of other manga tubers that had a very bad ending. Bad being, always very vague. I never really heard why it was bad. I always just heard the series started out pretty good, and then dropped off pretty substantially, being like an 8 out of 10 at first, throughout like the Soul Society arc, and then dropping off to like a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 at the end, and like, man, what actually happens there? I was very excited to read it, because I had always heard this from many different people, and so I decided to go ahead and do a spoiler-free review of Bleach. I'm not going to go into the spoilers at all. So what I will do is, just to give those who don't know much about Bleach a bit of a rundown, I'm going to read the synopsis from Wikipedia itself. That way nobody in the comment section can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Bleach, stylized as Bleach all caps, is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Taide Kubo. Bleach follows the adventures of the hot-headed teenager Ichigo Kurosaki, who inherits his parents' destiny after he obtains the powers of a Soul Reaper, a death personification similar to the Grim Reaper, from another Soul Reaper, Rukia Kuchiki. His newfound powers force him to take on the duties of defending humans from evil spirits and guiding departed souls to the afterlife, and set him on journeys to various ghostly realms of existence. Bleach was serialized in Shueisha's manga magazine Weekly Shonen Jump from August 2001 to August 2016, with its chapters collected into 74 tankobon volumes. So, that's the basic rundown here. Basically, at the very beginning of the series, Ichigo Kurosaki is a boy who can see ghosts. He can see spirits, he can talk to them, and one day he meets a Soul Reaper who's doing her job slaying hollows, hollows being a form of evil spirits which tries to take revenge on people, usually family members of people who died. They become hollows, they attack their family members. In the midst of one of the first battles in the series, Ichigo is given the Soul Reaper's abilities, and then Rukia Kuchiki, she's turned into more of a human. She's turned from a Soul Reaper into just a basic Kanpako, so she doesn't have any abilities anymore, and so it's Ichigo's job to do her job for her and protect Karakura Town from hollows and stuff. And that basically sets up the very first arc, the Soul Reaper, the Substitute Soul Reaper arc. And I'll be honest, at the beginning of the series, I definitely like it a lot. The whole Soul Reaper aspect and cleansing and using their sword, called Zanpakuto, to cleanse spirits by slashing them, which destroys their sins so they can go up to what they call the Soul Society, which is portrayed as a bit of a heaven type area. In the beginning of the series, we find out later it's not really, but whatever. You'll get into that if you get into the series. And that's the Substitute Soul Reaper arc, and I'll be honest, I like the fact that the series deals a lot with grieving and helping people let go of dead loved ones. Like, people come back as hollows, and then people have like this trauma, like they thought the person was dead, but now they're back, and they have to like let that person go. Those aspects in the very first arc are very good. As somebody who has lost a family member, Bleach hit me very strongly in that regard. The whole like cleansing the hollows so they don't haunt their families, and like letting go, I don't know, it was very powerful to me. But then with the second arc, the Soul Society arc, that kind of gets thrown out the window completely, and I'll be honest, that was kind of a negative for me. I kind of liked the aspect of, actually like being a traditional Soul Reaper, and I thought that was very nice. I liked that, and to see that kind of get thrown out the window and go into a more of an action shonen style with the second arc, at first I was disappointed. But the thing with the Soul Society arc, the second arc in the series, is that the storyline and action are fantastic. It adds a whole bunch of new characters. You're introduced to the 13 court guards. There's 13 squads of Soul Reapers which protect the Soul Society and are also tasked with balancing the amount of souls on Earth and the Soul Society and the other places. More places get introduced later, but for spoiler reasons, it's, you know, they're mostly like in charge of like balancing how many souls are on Earth or not. And there's a whole bunch of good characters. There's the captains and there's the assistant captains, aka the lieutenants. I'm pretty sure in the anime they call them lieutenants, but in the manga it's assistant captain. I don't know why they changed the term. Whatever, it's fine either way. A whole bunch of great characters, and also there's some other mysterious characters which you don't know too much about at first, such as Mr. Urahara and Mr. Yorichi the cat. The characters in this series are very well written and well designed. There's lots of very varying character designs in this series. And also, this series, Bleach, has a very interesting power system. So basically in this series, let's just take the Soul Reapers. So the basic main characters, the Soul Reapers. And they have a sword called a Zanpakuto, which is originally a normal samurai sword. And with their spiritual pressure, they can turn it into a custom weapon, which isn't necessarily a sword, called a shikai, which is their unlocked Zanpakuto. So a lot of characters carry around very different weapons, even though they all start out as samurai swords. And there's also a higher level of power called a bankai that not all of the characters can even do, only some can. And that usually changes, sometimes it even changes their body, and not just the weapon itself. Although, who that happens to, you know. Again, there's a lot with the power system, which you learn about the power system at first, and it's really basic, and then they build on it later on. And then it retcons things that happened earlier, because they say, oh, well, we were holding this information from you. It would explain too much and take these, and it would, make this arc not really flow. And you realize, oh, well, Kubo just hadn't written the power system early on. And so there's a lot of retconning that happens. For instance, in the earlier arcs, there's characters which get defeated who only have either no shikai or just a shikai. And then you find out later that they have like a bankai, and oh, I was just holding back. It's like, man, they were holding back to the point where they almost died to some random people that infiltrated the Soul Society. Like, I don't know. There's some things that there's a lot of retconning. Ichigo has some friends who have also gotten superpowers very similar to his. For instance, there's another main character. There's Orihime Inoue. She is the main love interest for Ichigo in this series, or at least in the manga she is. They toned that part down a little bit in the anime, tried to keep it balanced with all the other girl characters, but Orihime in this series, she has a power which is very similar to the magic system in this. So in this world, there's a magic system called Keto. Not the diet. Not the diet. That's something different. And so, you know, she can heal people. She can do some really basic attacks. She can create force fields and stuff like that. And then there's another guy. His name's Chad, and he can basically give himself a super arm that can shoot lasers, and he also can like punch stuff really hard. It's not really explained at all at first, but yeah, Chad's pretty interesting. He is a Chad. His name fits, to be completely honest. Going back to what I was saying, with a lot of people saying the series gets a whole lot worse as it goes on. So first there's a Substitute Soul Reaper arc, and then there's a Soul Society arc, and everybody loves them. And then there's another arc called the Arankar arc, and a lot of people think it's basically just a more boring, extended copy of Soul Society. But to be honest, the action scenes in this series are fantastic. The one-on-one battles that happen are very hype, and it will keep you interested as long as you're not reading it too slowly so it doesn't get too drawn out. If I'm remembering here, there's a couple of volumes which set everything up. Oh, and I also forgot, there's another character. There's also a group of humans which have gained their own type of spiritual abilities. They use bow and arrows. They're called Quincy's. Also, Uryo Ishida, he's another main character to get introduced. He's a Quincy. And then a Rancor is giant. It goes from volumes 21 all of the way up through volumes 48. Yeah, that's pretty big for manga. You know, that's like, for some manga series, that's like an entire series just for one arc. And so a lot of people getting bored with that arc, you know, that's very understandable. It is a very long arc, but I liked it. I liked the Rancor arc. And then we move into the next arc, and I won't really be explaining these ones, again, for spoilers, but we have the Fullbring arc. Starts at volume 49, and it's actually pretty small, and the Fullbring arc ends volume 54, so it's 49 to 54. Almost as short as the first arc, actually, so the substitute arc. So it's very small. But here's the thing. The Fullbring arc is actually kind of bad. I don't like the Fullbring arc. It had some nice action scenes, so I'll give it that. But it was like frustratingly boring. You ever watch like a filler anime episode and like all of the main characters all of a sudden like forget all of their abilities and they're super lame so that the villain of the week can beat them up? That's basically how I felt through all of Fullbring arc. It's very frustrating. There's pretty much no hype moments. And Ichigo has to get saved by his friends like 1,000 times because he can't do anything apparently. That's just kind of frustrating. Next up is the final arc of the series. It's the 1,000-year Blood War arc. This is the main arc, which a lot of manga tubers that I was talking to told me was so bad it ruined Bleach for them, and they thought the series went down from like a 7 out of 10 down to like 3. So I was reading this and I was thinking, okay, when does it get bad? When does it get bad? And it kind of just never did. I thought it was fine. It was basically just the Rancor arc, but again with different villains, and I thought the action scenes were fine. The lore explanations were fine. Pretty much nothing in here was bad. It was just kind of a decent enough action shonen manga, you know, a high 7. Maybe 8 on a good day if I'm feeling happy. And, you know, nothing was really bad here. So, the thing is most of Bleach is actually just fantastic. Like, I loved most of this. And I probably would say, like, the first 2 arcs are an 8 out of 10. A Rancor and 1,000 Year are probably a 7 out of 10. And then the only part I really didn't like was Fullbring. And to be honest, even that was okay. Like, it was a 5 out of 10 action shonen, you know? And so, there were so many awesome parts, I really can't give this series a score that's too low, because I feel like if I said, okay, weighing the average, it's a 6.5 out of 10. Personally, I would feel like I was lying if I did that, because I liked this series way too much. It took me 8 days to binge read this. If this series was all like the Fullbring arc, I wouldn't have wanted to do that since it would be boring. But so much of it was so good, I genuinely was interested. And so, you know, by the end, I was very happy. I will admit the ending is extremely rushed. But it's not bad. Like, the thing is like, what? Okay, could he have crammed 1 more volume in? Okay. It was fine, I think, you know? And I hear that all of the, like, lore issues which were introduced in the final volume that people didn't like get explained in a far better way in the novels that come next. And so I plan on actually reading the light novels for this. Apparently the light novel series, Bleach Can't Fear Your Own World, is a continuation of the manga, like exactly. And I hear that it pretty much fixes all of pacing issues in 1,000-Year Blood War, and it basically fixes like everything people didn't like about the arc through retconning or just explanations for the really vague stuff. And so if I had to give Bleach in its entirety a score, I would probably say 7 out of 10. But if we're talking until Fullbring, so volumes 1 through 48, it's an 8 out of 10. It was genuinely fun. I loved reading it. The action scenes were fantastic. This series does a lot of one-on-one battles. That's pretty much Kubo's specialty, is one-on-one battles. And they're awesome. You know, like, I would recommend Bleach. You know, a lot of people say, like, oh, you know, it's one of the Fallen Kings. It was so good at first, and a bad ending ruined it. I don't really agree with that. Bleach is great. I would give it my final score is a 7 out of 10. And if I had to give any other alternate recommendations for similar series, I would probably just say Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's face it, Jujutsu Kaisen is basically just a better version of Bleach. I'm gonna be honest. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this series. The only other thing I could touch on would be the anime, which I am watching right now. And besides the filler episodes and the flashbacks and some of the new introduced pacing issues, I think the anime is fine. If you want to watch the anime instead of read the manga for Bleach, I would say that's a perfectly good idea. Personally, I like the manga more. You know, the anime is fine for Bleach. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like the constant flashbacks. Each episode has like 4 minutes of flashbacks. So like if you're watching on Crunchyroll or something, you're just gonna skip those anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Anyways, I had fun reading Bleach. Anyways, remember to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and see you next time. Bye!